Welcome back to TalkNorth.com. Thank you for listening. If you can, please download before you listen. It helps our business. I'd also like to thank our producer, Brandon Morton, and let you know if you'd like to sponsor this program or any of the programs on the network, you can reach me at jsouhan47@gmail.com. This is a rare pregame version of the Russo-Souhan show. We're both on our way to the XL Energy Center to cover the Minnesota Wild on Tuesday night. And you know, as you know by now, if you've been listening to us for a long time, we'll do some pregame chat, but most of the stuff we'll have some shelf life. We'll talk about some bigger picture topics that won't be affected by their performance tonight. At least we hope not. This is part of the TalkNorth.com podcast network. Please check out all the shows, including Jeff Diamond and Tim Yoder on the Vikings, John Krasinski on the Timberwolves, Cheryl Reeve. Great shows all across the board. Thanks to Twill and the Edina Galleria, Dulono's Pizza, where our next live show will be 6 p.m. on January 28th. Which I believe is a Monday night. Come out. We had a huge crowd last time we went. It was just a great bunch of people. Had a blast. Thank you to Delonos. Thank you to the people who came out. FixologyRepair.com. Tony Hoaglund, your State Farm agent in Champlin. Reminder, please download before you listen. Thanks to our producer, Brandon Morton. Please follow us at Talk North Pod on Twitter for show times and sponsor deals. And if you'd like to advertise with this show or the network, you can reach us at talknorthpodcast@gmail.com.
I know I always zone out, but did you say Fixology?
I did say Fixology, and yes, you do always zone out. No question about it. All right, before we get to all the hockey stuff, I just can't believe that you didn't fly home to be with your mother when she was undergoing surgery.
Wow, so, you must have talked to her. So,
I might have.
So you know, in my religion, there's something called Jewish guilt.
Well, there's also
moms are famous for this.
And see, in my religion, there's something called Catholic guilt. The difference is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I've been around for 55 years now. I've studied all kinds of different religions. Your guilt is placed directly upon you by your mother.
Yeah.
In Catholicism, we're born feeling guilty, and we don't really need a parent to place it upon us.
Trust me, I felt guilty that I'm not going down there, and that I didn't go down there for the surgery, and that this all fell on my brother. But my mom, she doesn't just give the Jewish guilt where she, tries to subtly make you feel like... She'll just point blank say, "Don't you feel guilty that you're not down here? Aren't you glad that your brother is taking care of me? What would you do without your brother? So that's what I've been dealing with all week, and I do feel bad,
And I mean, the good thing is I'm sure she hasn't pointed out that you couldn't find the time to go spend time with her in your hour of need, but you will go to Costa Rica in the middle of a hockey season.
Well, I'm going to this wedding, and
wedding,
the other thing is that the way that I booked the trip, it was like I did not. Obviously, I booked the trip before she found out that she needed surgery and the date she needed surgery. And I go from Costa Rica to Vegas and Denver to pick up the Wild. And so it was such a complex booking that I didn't even know I didn't even know how to reschedule it. It would have cost an absolute fortune for one, because I would have just had to buy a flight to Atlanta, then from Atlanta to Vegas and Denver. So, tough me. I'm going to have to go to Costa Rica, which, by the way, I think the Wild need me to go to Costa Rica, and I need to go to Costa Rica.
Wearing a little thin on the boys as they stick the joint up?
Yeah, I did notice in the locker room yesterday I was getting eyeballed by some people. So, I think
That's how you know you're doing your job.
I just think that when you're a team like this, you should probably never, ever read.
No, not when you...
Or look at Twitter, or, and your friends and family should probably say, "Hey, did you see what Russo wrote about you?"
Do they all have athletic subscriptions?
I think they might.
Or they have one team one, and
I think they have one team one. I know that one player has one, because I might have gotten that player the one. And that the player wanted to read something and didn't have a subscription, so I'm like, I just want to.
And hockey players can't afford the $4 a month.
So I bought it, but I have a feeling that password and username has made it around the locker room a bit. So.
And I know you're going to Costa Rica for a wedding. Have you been there before?
Once. I went there probably, I was living in Minnesota at the time, so I'm thinking it must have been like 10 or 11 years ago. I went with my brother and a buddy.
I think you told me
maybe
about
11
that.
or 12.
I've heard it's great.
I landed in San Jose, and San Jose is not a great place. And so I got, it's like you kind of use it as a port of entry,
right,
and then get the heck out of there. I think we landed so late that we
somebody
stayed
built
at
a wall
this,
around San Jose. Nobody would ever find a way to get in.
So we went to the San Jose Marriott, which is on a coffee plantation, which is kind of cool. Then I rented a minivan, and we went to Arenal, which is an active volcano there was awesome. I think it might be temporarily dormant right now, but it's like one of those volcanoes that, if I remember correctly, it's not really magma that flows down. It's just super hot rock. And so it looks very different than you see on TV what a active volcano that's spewing in Hawaii would look like. And the place that we stayed were essentially all little cottages in the forest, and each one was situated with the patio facing the volcano. So at night it just looked unreal. Yeah. And then we drove over to the West Coast, and we stayed at whatever the Marriott would be there, Los Sueños Marriott, which was awesome. And kind of drove back and forth down that coast for a while. So
Sueños is that dream in Spanish?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah.
And then this one I'm flying in for the first time to Liberia airport, not Africa.
Right.
And so it's apparently a really cool small little airport. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be fun. And then I'll pick up the team in Vegas next Sunday. I fly out at first thing Sunday to Vegas, and then Denver. And then we got the All-Star break and the bye. So it's going to be interesting what happens to this Wild team and if they can figure out a way to correct themselves this week.
We were talking pretty much right before the game on Tuesday. Let's talk about the last two losses that seem to upend the entire season. Do want to thank Twill in the Edina Galleria, twillmn.com, TWILL on Instagram. Check them out. Both the website and Instagram accounts are great representations of what they do. I'm wearing a Twill shirt. A shirt I bought at Twill right now, a Stenstrom shirt. And now that I'm wearing a lot of stuff I bought at Twill, I can't remember like what kind of crappy stuff I wore before. So check out Twill. Go into the store, chat with the people. They're very nice. They're very laid back. They'll have a game on. Browse. Enjoy.
Jim usually doesn't like to shop for clothes. I don't like it when he shops for clothes either, because he used to buy stuff I'd want to throw out. That's why I'm so glad he's found Twill in the Edina Galleria. He likes shopping there because of the comfortable environment and the friendly staff. He finds clothes that actually fit him properly and are high-quality brands that will look great for years, whether he's golfing or working. Our favorites so far are Peter Millar, Johnny O, and Barber. We spend our money at Twill because we love the clothes and we love the no-pressure shopping. Drop by Twill in the Edina Galleria for the best shopping experience and best clothes you'll find in the Twin Cities.
So, it's amazing how often this happens. As soon as you get excited about the team, they tank. Yeah. As soon as you think they're tanking, they will rebound. I thought that they found something in that Canadian trip, and the last two games have been horrific.
Yeah. And then they come home and beat Winnipeg.
Yeah.
Where you think they're going to be horrific, and they're not, because you figure that fatigue set in, and then they go and they absolutely trip all over themselves the last couple of games, and it's just unacceptable. Look, it's one thing the Detroit game to. I sort of understand that, and I didn't ask it in the most eloquent way, but Bruce kind of insinuated in his post game that that maybe the team was tired from the road trip. And look, I know that fans don't like excuses, but I expected the Wild to play like they did against Detroit, against Winnipeg, and I think that Winnipeg got them all up because it's a division rival. There's a hatred there, blah 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 blah. But then what happened is now you're fatigued, and so. All right, it's one thing. So, let's say that Detroit is just a write-off. Mm-hmm. Well, then you got to rebound in Philly, and when you're up 2-0 on two crappy goals, by the way, I mean, both those goals were crappy goals. You got to win, and they just always do enough to lose, and it's important players trying to do too much. I mean, I wrote it in the Detroit story. Eric Stahl, who's struggling right now, is trying to do too much, and we saw it again last night. That back-breaking fifth goal is Parise, but. You got to get goaltending. There's just look. I get I get that those first 3 goals were wacky deflections. I mean, the first goal is a redirection in front of the net, top shelf. The second goal goes off his skate. There was plenty of breakdowns in front of Dubnyk. And then the third goal is batted in by essentially redirects off Brodin. But you got to make the save. You at some point here, like, again, the 5th goal, total mistake. But you need the goalie to just cover up for your teammates. That's part of the job. And so last night I thought was just disappointing. When you give up 6 shots in 25-minute span and 4 of them go in, one granted against Stalock, that the goalies have to take responsibility on that too. So that was it was a disappointing game by everybody last night. And then the other thing that is just absolutely a concern right now is watching guys like Granlund, Niederreiter, and Stahl every single night. I mean, these 3 have been awful. Awful. And, man, like, if Niederreiter's not going to score, you got to win some board battles. And last night he was soft on the wall, and they wound up going against. Stahl is not skating well right now. He looks tired. He looks old. He needs the All-Star break. And Granlund, I mean, what is going on, man? I mean, honestly, he's going to want $8-9 million a year. I'd trade him. If honestly, if this is, they cannot pay him this type of money, and not to sit here and try to say that I called a lot of this stuff, but the last couple of years when I kept on saying on the podcast, and you could probably go back and listen, that every time they sign one of these guys, they're making their bed. They're making their bed. How many times have I said they're making their bed? This was my concern. They've committed to a core that now when you pay them, if they flounder, you have now given them inflated, untradeable contracts. And they can't, right now, I mean, we all know that Fenton is tried to make some moves here. But the guys he's trying to move right now are guys like Niederreiter. Well, why can't he move him? Who would want him at 5.25 with 4 more years left on his deal? 3, really. Coyle is somebody that went from being very tradable to now, can you afford to trade him when he's your fastest center and Stahl and Koivu are playing like this? It's tough. So if all of a sudden they make that mistake with Granlund, you're in a lot of trouble. So not to depress everybody, but this I have a feeling is going to wind up being a depressing show. Especially if we start talking to the prospects.
You go back and talk about your mom's guilt.
Yeah, I know. But you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, this is just, and there was a certain irony last night of this happening in front of Chuck Fletcher.
Yep.
The roster that he constructed.
Yep.
That, once again, in a very winnable game, just completely melts down in front of his eyes. I mean, it just, it's like, here you go. And I love, I will say this, the other thing, like Wild fans keep on saying, Flyers fans, you got an up close and personal, what's going to happen to your team? No. Philly is so far well beyond where the Wild are right now. Now, I get that they stink, but all they, to me, need is a goalie and some D. Their prospect pool is full, and they're full of studs. Like, look at that lineup last night. Like, there are 5-6 players I'd rather that were on the ice last night for the Flyers that I would pick any one of them over anybody on the Wild. And that is just a fact. Would you rather have Giroux or anybody on the Wild? Would you rather have JVR or anybody on the Wild? Would you rather have Couturier? Maybe he would be one that you'd debate. Would you have a Voracek? I mean, you can go up and down that lineup. Would you have a Nolan Patrick? I would take any of those guys. And so he's not going to, I don't know. I get there are challenges in Philly, but he's walked into a pretty good situation in my mind.
Well, I will take your word for it because I'm certainly no expert on the Flyers roster, but I was still shocked the way the Wild gave that game up yesterday.
Now, I will say, like, they were at bottom of the standings. Like, even Parise said after the game, I didn't use the quote, but he said, and I didn't use the quote because I knew in a lot of ways, I knew what Parise was. I was in the press box till 12:30 in the morning, and I didn't have the stamina to spend 4 graphs protecting Parise for this one quote that I knew that fans would be a lightning rod for. But he basically said that the last 2 losses were deceiving in terms of the fact that they played crummy teams. He basically said, like, I don't look at Detroit and thinking they're bad. And he said, I definitely don't look at Philly and think that they're bad because look at every one of their stars that I just mentioned. Mm-hmm. They have great players on Philly. They just haven't had good goaltending. And to me, that was another huge disappointment about last night's game. I mean, look at the 3 goals that Carter Hart